live and I'm not. Am I not? Am I have not been live? Hello, chat. Let's see. Oh my goodness! I've been talking for like 5 minutes and I thought we were live, and it hasn't been live. Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm glad I checked the chat stream there. Good old YouTube being funky here. See, are you guys? You guys are okay. We are coming through now. Let's start this over again. All right. Fade to black. Round two. All right. Welcome to this podcast, this live edition of Filmmaker IQ. Let's make sure that I am live for sure. Great technology. Technology's awesome. It never ever works right when you want it to. Am I live now? Let's see. Man, I'm going to wait for your guys' chat to kind of roll through here. Hopefully we are actually live. Thank you, best buddy. I am live. Okay. So, what I was saying earlier was this is sort of become, these weekly little chats have become kind of my way of kind of getting some thoughts out in the world without fully committing to a full in-depth video, which will last forever. This is more of a live kind of a stream of thought kind of a process. I used to go on Facebook. I used to leave a lot of these thoughts on Facebook with my friends when we kind of discuss some of the ideas. But Facebook has gotten so toxic to me that I can't say anything on Facebook without becoming just horribly, beaten down. I feel just afraid of speaking on Facebook because it's text. You don't get the communication across. So these have sort of become my little therapy sessions to talk about certain ideas and topics that are interesting to me. And today's topic is I wanted to talk about how to present history in a narrative format, and I'm talking narrative as in documentary or in any sort of format. And I'm not an expert, obviously, of making nonfiction movies, although I gotta say I have some experience making some nonfiction content, because obviously you're watching Filmmaker IQ. We've got lots of history of videos and all that. But I wanted to kind of go over how I approach history and how I approach writing for history. And the way I think about it, and we're going to introduce the whiteboard. Hopefully you guys can see the whiteboard now. All right, now we got the whiteboard going here. All right, I know it's a little bit bright in here. I'll probably have to get some fatter markers so you can actually see it better. But I think of history kind of like a river. Like it starts off as a trickle, and then it goes through time, but it's volume of water. It's volume of events that have happened, just everything, right? History is just something like a continuous flow. Right now, history is being made, and you don't even know about it because it's just this big voluptuous, big voluminous, addition of events. And then when you write history, you pick a starting point somewhere in that river of history, and then you follow the line, and then you end the story. That's how you write a story, because we can't. Our human brains are not capable of thinking in this big volume. Our stories need a line. They need some sort of direction, some sort of ups and downs, and and all your tools of storytelling are applied when you tell this particular part of history. Now keep in mind, this little line only represents this tiny little path in the whole giant history of things. And what kind of got me started about this topic is for some reason my video on the history of the battle for color television in the United States for NTSC, where I covered kind of this little history of, this is the battle between CBS and RCA, and then finally what happened with the NTSC discovered, finally settled on the RCA standard. People keep coming up to me and saying, well, what about Camarena, Gonzalez Camarena? The thing is, his story is over here. He's not part of this little storyline that I'm trying to create. Now, I could cover him, by doing this, like taking my story and then bouncing down here and then coming back and entering my storyline. And then I got another comment saying, what about the Japanese? How come you didn't mention the Japanese as far as your story? Well, the Japanese history is over here. Like, here's Japanese involvement in the NTSC story. So I've got to come here and I've got to go over here and then come back. That's now how history works. I'm going to get some piece of paper and I can wipe this down. Well, that's not how storytelling works. And I guess when I see a documentary, so personally, when I see a documentary about history, I want to be told kind of a story. I want to be told, a path. I want to follow something that happens. Now, what bugs me in some documentaries is they don't do this path. They do like this, the pocket of information here, pocket of information here, pocket of information here, pocket of information here. Like, the thing that bugged me about that Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood documentary, which was sweet and it was good, it's fine, but it kind of acted like this. It's told you a little bit of this story, a little of this story, a little of this story, a little of this story, and I didn't get that. I wanted that through line. I wanted something that takes me from the beginning of his career to the end of his career. I wanted that line, but instead I got kind of these little jump marks. And again, that's something that, honestly, it's really, really, really hard to do. Like, right now I'm working on a documentary. I'm constantly working on this documentary, so it's always fits and starts with this thing about the history of a company, and they have the same thing. I've had the same exact problem. It's like you can follow a line of a story really well, and then all of a sudden, like, everybody expects you to talk about this part, this part, this part, this part, this part, and like, how do you navigate and still be able to kind of hit all these different little parts of the story? So that's what I wanted to kind of get about as far as history and narrative film, history and narrative, any kind of narrative. Even books can kind of do this thing where you have like a bunch of different storylines and you can kind of work your way around it and let the final reader kind of put. But when you're dealing with like a movie or a documentary or something where people have to consume, in a sitting, you can't be jumping around like that constantly. So let's talk about maybe approach this a little bit from a non-fiction side of it, and that is from, like, say, Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is kind of a good idea of a good example of this kind of, because I keep reminded of the very last season. Now, I liked the last season. I know a lot of people hated the last season. I think I liked it for the broad strokes. The broad strokes I thought were very strong in there. Okay, I get it. Maybe people didn't want to spend more time on the end of it. Okay, I get that. But I think the broad strokes I really appreciate. But I like the way, spoiler alert, if you haven't, come on, it's been a year. You've been locked down. You had time to watch this damn thing. But they pick the final king and little guy Tyrion says he's got the best story because the story is the most important thing. So story, how you craft the story is key. Anyhow, I'm jumping ahead of myself with Game of Thrones here. The way Game of Thrones would work is instead of having these little pods, you have basically one storyline here, which is I'm getting all the names lost, but like Tyrion's story, and then you have another characters whose storyline goes like this, and then Daenerys' storyline goes like that. You have, and then you maybe have this story which goes like that, and then this person dies and is killed off immediately. He's dead. So you can do this kind of thing and weave all the stories, and then they all kind of come together. But anyways, what I'm trying to get to, I think the point, if there is one, is that ultimately when you tell a story through motion picture or through, even a written story, you've got to make choices. You can't be jumping around a lot and covering all these other different aspects. You've got to serve the storyline. You've got to continue the storyline through and follow the through. Also, it doesn't become a good story. And if the goal of adapting this history to motion picture, short story, or even YouTube video, is you've got to try to stick along the story, and you can't be jumping around. And then But then, of course, everybody's going to be jumping on you. Why didn't you cover this part? Why didn't you cover this part? Why didn't you get to this guy over here? It's like, well, because they're not part of the through story. The whole point is the story. So anyhow, that's what I wanted to get about as far as the history. Yeah, and part of it, what it was, is that I was getting a lot of comments on my video about this guy named Camarena. I forget his name. Inarritu Camarena. No, not Inarritu. I'm getting directors mixed up. Camarena. Oh my goodness. Camarena, who was who, if you look up Camarena as far as color television, he is often credited as, not often, but he is sometimes credited as the inventor of color television. The fact of the matter is he didn't. And unfortunately, it's been kind of intertwined with a little bit of a nationalistic pride for Mexico, which is, it's like, you know, Camarena was a very, very smart person, very, very ingenious person. I'm about to sneeze here, sorry. Excuse me. But he was in his own right a genius. But the thing is, he didn't invent color television. And I can kind of go into a long tirade about this. But it's become sort of a nationalistic pride. And to the point where if you say that he didn't invent color television, then you're racist against Mexicans. And that's not true. He didn't invent color television, and it just kind of it's become so hyperbolic that it's starting to just wear on my nerves. And I wanted to kind of talk about this direction of history and how to figure out, like, you know, where the direction. So anyhow, that's what are your thoughts on what I'm trying to say? I'll use my iPad here to point out some of the comments here. So I've been searching for days for CPA. Okay, now we're going to jump off into taxes, huh? Searching for a CPA in LA as well as self-employed. Let's see if I can do this like that. Looking for a self-employed worker. It's been a challenge, big topic for future. So I just finished my taxes. It is basically, if you're self-employed, there are certain. I am a business major. I went to school for business, so I know my taxes pretty. I mean, I don't know my taxes, but I can speak the lingo of the accountants. And there like H&R Block. That's what I use. They do have like programs for self-employed. So you take all your W-2s and your 1099s, you put them in there. I personally have my own business set up, you know, with my DBA and all that. So I use QuickBooks, and I keep track of all my expenses and income and all that. So I can kind of keep tabs on everything. So that's how I would approach it. But yeah, taxes are, because if you're self-employed, you don't have your money taken out by the employer, so you end up paying the government unless you do quarterly taxes, which I'm going to start doing. But I know, totally getting boring about that. Oh, there we go. So you're saying this is going to be a little bit tricky to do it both hands here. William Goldman talked about this in Adventures in Screen Trade with a story of a guy who snuck into the Queen's castle regarding writing history. Well, hopefully that's what it means. Yeah. All right. Let me make sure we're still running here. Yeah, this thing is I think my iPad thing is really slow to catch up with your guys' comments. So I might just go back and do it the live manual way here. Do it through the computer version. There we go. Oh, let's see. Maybe I got to set something up a little bit automatically. Update the titles with most title entry. Never mind. Whatever. We'll get that settled up. So anyhow. So yeah. So I, again, reiterate, I have just wrapped up my taxes, and I went from owing the government a whole lot of money to owing the government still quite a bit of money, and be like, okay, well, you know, I've always looked at the way, because I've not made a lot of money doing this, so I've always considered paying taxes a sign of success. However, it still stings. It still hurts. Still hurts. Rigel 7 says, I was going to put over. I'm still working this out here. I just read that bit the other day. He was talking about how real life sometimes plays out too scripted or unbelievable. There is a theory out there that the reality is a simulation. I know Elon Musk kind of plays around with this idea a little bit, that if reality is a simulation, then what's guaranteed to happen is the most entertaining thing. I mean, I don't know if I buy the whole reality is a simulation kind of angle of it. I see the value of it, but honestly, yeah, I think it's a little too matrixy for me. Like I might differ away from people that are really into quantum theory mechanics, but I really don't believe the whole idea of the Schrodinger's cat thing, where the cat is alive and dead at the same time. I think that's more of a thought experiment, and it's more of a weakness of our understanding of quantum physics rather than how it's really happening. But then again, what is reality if we don't necessarily know what reality is? And we can get into some serious like bong hit kind of craziness here. Yeah, so this is, and Charles Hoffman adds a good point here. I can put that on screen. Finding the through line for a story is not always easy, especially when you're dealing with real events and historical documentary. How do you sift through undifferentiated massive facts? And this is the key that I want to, like, when I do a history of video, like when I do that's why some of these history videos take so long. It's not to get my chalkboard back out, my little board back out here. But if you have like a bunch of interesting stories like this, it's easier to just make a little vignettes of all these little pieces than try to find a way to tie them all together through a story. Because this line doesn't really make sense. It kind of goes sideways and all kinds of craziness. So that's one of the reasons why, I mean, other than the fact that for some reason I have a hard mental block right now. But when I do a history video, like even my studios videos, which are hard to write, they really are, because I want to create this kind of through line. Because it's otherwise I'm just rattling off details for 20 minutes, and that's not particularly interesting. I also follow, if you guys follow the South Park guys, Matt Parker, Trey Stone, or is it Matt Stone, Trey Parker? There it is. And they talk about the technique that I've almost discovered that I've ingrained this in my videos. And if you watch my studios video, you might catch up on why I do, or on my technique of doing this. And that is the don't say and, always say but. Like when I write, I tend to write this happened, but this happened, therefore this happens, but that happened. I tend to link things through words like but, rather than this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened. See how that becomes sort of just like you're just going down this hole of who cares? Whereas if you say, this happened, but this happened. Now, this guy did this, but this happened, therefore this caused that to happen, which was responded to by this thing. See, that's a little more interesting. Put down the bong, man. I know, talk about that. Yeah, Scott Adams' influences on me. Scott Adams' influence is way too strong on me. I've gone crazy I'm starting a cartoon now. I'm going to dye my hair and become Dilbert in a second. But yeah. So have I seen a glitch in the Matrix? No, I haven't. But I gets into it. Yeah, like that's the thing is, like I said, I don't totally believe in the whole collapsing the. I don't like the multiverse idea, and I like the multiverse Marvel idea. I just don't like the whole idea of the multiverse in the way we talk about physics, because I think it gets too unwieldy too quickly. Like we talk about that anytime in quantum mechanics, when you can have two paths, the universe splits in half, and then one path is the particle existing in this situation, and the other path is the particle existing in this situation. But then if you think about it, like there's literally, there's no number of Googleplexes of particles that are in our universe that are constantly in that state. So there's infinitely number of universes at every single moment, every single microsecond. It feels like it's more of a thought issue. It's a problem of how we understand reality rather than reality. That's kind of the thing I'm getting at. Wow, this conversation is going way off, away from filmmaking, way off into some bizarro interest lands here. So, anyhow, let's see what's going on with my chat is not updating, but maybe you guys are just quiet today. That's fine too. We can have a quiet day too. Yeah, you guys are just quiet. The new South Park episode comes out today. I don't know. I honestly have not watched South Park in like probably 5 years. And it's not I don't like it. It's just it's hard to keep up with that stuff. Here we go. That's a good comment. Question. What are your thoughts about the fictional pieces that deal with historic things like dinos in Jurassic Park, but still depict dinos without feathers? I know, dinos, everyone thinks dinos were all scaled. I don't know, I was just reading this the other day. I'm not sure that dinosaurs were feathered. Like, there were obviously some dinos that had feathers. I think the velociraptors, or people are thinking the velociraptor was probably more of a feathered creature. But there's also a lot of people saying the T-Rex probably was scaled. That it didn't have any, maybe if it had feathers, maybe it had like a few feathers on top. Again, who knows? And we don't know. We don't know what dinos looked like at all. So it's all creative license, stuff like that. Hey, Victor Bart, how you doing, man? Welcome to the stream. Mike hanging out with here. Here's a question. What is my favorite historical films? The Aviator is one of mine. Don't shy away from showing Hughes is behaving badly. I'm trying to think what other my favorite historical films. I've been watching, again, I'll say, I probably said it last time, I'm watching a lot of Plebs. Plebs is a TV show, I believe, on ITV2 in England. And it is wildly historically inaccurate. But I have to kind of like check myself and remind myself that that's okay. This is not a show that is designed to be. So Plebs is, if you aren't familiar with it, is a show. It's like the In-Betweeners, if you're familiar with In-Betweeners, but it's basically kind of a mid-20s sex comedy about three guys living in Rome who are basically all about just trying to get laid and trying to find a girlfriend and just all the basic 20-year-old stuff. But it's kind of set in the backdrop of Roman times. Now, it's not historically accurate because they have tomatoes and the people are eating like corn on the cob, maize. So obviously that's not accurate to the Roman times. But you think about it, it's like this is never meant to be history. This is not meant to be accurate depiction of the time. It's really meant as a commentary, as like how these kind of themes can maybe transcend throughout time. It feels just as home in the Roman era as it does in modern era. So that's one of the shows I've been watching a lot. I like that. Joseph Correa says it makes sense that T-Rex's little arms are vestigial chicken wings. So the particular article I was reading yesterday was saying that the arms of the T-Rex one paleontologist thinks that the T-Rex arms were really more meant for slashing. That its small arms are it's got small arms, but the arms would have been the size of a human leg. If you're like my leg would have been the size of the arm. Of course, the T-Rex is much bigger. So, but the idea was that it's got a really sharp claws on the end. It was meant for slashing, for like T-Rex would be jumping on top. Of course, there's argument that the T-Rex was a scavenger, so the T-Rex would have maybe used the arms to kind of rip the carcass apart, rather than actually jumping on something and attacking it, kind of a thing. Boy, but I love it. I love talking about all kinds of crazy stuff that is not quite filmmaking, but this is awesome. I'll talk about T-Rexes. Oh, Rigel says I'm the only one that has watched Plebs, other than I'm forcing my friends to watch Plebs too. I am so addicted to that show because I think for me, like, that's the kind of show that I would make. In fact, it's kind of very similar to some of the comic book that I'm working on. It's got the same flavor. Obviously, it's different because my comic book isn't set in Rome. So, oh my gosh. Oh, there you go. So yeah, Vikings is another show. I guess I haven't gotten into that. Vikings is a show that's half history. Do you remember Spartacus? The Spartacus. The thing I remember about Spartacus that I will never forget about Spartacus is that just the cursing. I love the cursing in Spartacus. Half history, half legend, half fiction. But in Spartacus, everything is by Jupiter's cock. Sorry from all the people that are a little more sensitive in the room there. I'm sorry I cursed, used the Jupiter's name in vain. By Jupiter's cock. It was like so over the top the way they used it. I mean, yeah. I think part of understanding maybe the maturity of doing more history is like learning that what you watch, if it's a movie, even if it's a documentary, the history is not real. It is a story. It is kind of a, like you're never getting the truth. You're always getting a form of the truth. You're always getting that one through line. There's obviously another through line that goes through somewhere else that tells a different side of the story. So you have to realize that no matter what you do, you're not going to get the full river of history. You're going to get just a through line. And maybe the way to understand history is to look at a lot of different through lines, and say, well, let's take a look at it from this perspective, anyhow. So, HBO's Rome. I did not see HBO's Rome. I have to check. I'm not. So the other thing I wanted to talk about today was I was going through. Oh, my thing's not clicking. There it goes. I was going through last night. I had a 14-hour work day. I did some live streaming for a school board last night, and I did a Zoom program I recorded. So I was working all day long. And last night I got home and I wanted to just veg out and watch something. But it's like 11 o'clock and like I want to go to bed at 12. I want to be ready. I want to be like, I don't want to invest in the movies. But I was still going through like HBO Plus or HBO Max. I can't remember which one's which. And I was trying to figure out what to watch. And I was looking at all the posters. And I thought to myself, man, all these posters look like they're too dour looking. Like every poster is. It's like every single thing just looked uninteresting to me. Not a single movie like caught my attention that made me think, oh, this looks like fun. No, it all looked like just sour, super heady and super serious movies. And I was just like, okay, well. And I saw HBO they're trying to push their stories of COVID. And I'm like, I have enough of that. I don't need more stories of COVID. So, example, somebody's talking about history movies that are like myth and fiction and all that. And 300 is an example. Yeah, exactly. 300 is a completely. When 300 came out too, I was working at an office where they had it was actually run by Persians. So Persians had some real beef with 300, the way they portrayed the Persian army. And I don't know. Obviously, first of all, if you look at 300 and say that's a historical movie, maybe you shouldn't be taking that. You shouldn't be taking that seriously. Like no one, I don't think anybody looks at 300 and thinks that is like, oh, that's history. But again, maybe being so over the top and so overly dramatic, so overly, stylized that you can kind of get away with portraying the bad guy, the Persian army, I guess, in that situation as sort of this weird, non-human sort of thing. I mean, it's a fictionalized story, so I don't know. I can kind of see what the Persian angle on it, but I mean, yeah, it is kind of crazy. Well, is it Zack Snyder's version of history? Nay Dollar says, or is it just is just kind of a stylized? Oh, I think I need to click on that. Yeah, my shortcut's not working anymore. Whatever. Is it really Zack Snyder's, or is it really kind of just this hyper stylized comic book, Frank Miller kind of, we're going to make these look badass kind of thing. I don't know. Again, Zack Snyder is not really. He never claimed its history. MSD says 300 is just a cartoon, and I agree. Yeah, 300 is just cartoon. The lead Greek, I like that. The lead Greek in 300 is Scottish. And they all had tremendous abs and very homoerotic. Like, I'm not gay, but like, those guys look freaking good. Oh, there you go. Helium Road says, my thing lately is watching gritty 70s crime films, which are all fiction and pretty grim and dark. Helium Road also says, 300 is a cartoon. This is a film. And kick. This is cinema. Cash. So, yeah. Going back, here we go. So Essie Momo says, so this is a good point to talk about. Let's give Jurassic Park a pass because it's clearly fiction. The pieces like Tiger King depend on actual events. Reducing parts of that fit in the narrative is fine, but it would not give the same pass. I agree. Yeah, I agree. And I think that's also partly the problem. We have to realize that documentaries are themselves as fictional as nonfiction. And as much as we like to think that documentary means it's reality-based, it's not reality-based. It's kind of like reality TV is not reality, right? I mean, I know the story of The Hills. If you guys remember The Hills, it was kind of innocuous late 90s, 2000s MTV show, reality show, which is really, they actually literally had them redo the scene. If they shot something and like, well, that didn't really work, can we just redo it? Just do it again. I mean, it wasn't scripted, but it was reality, right? Fake reality. The documentaries have always been that problematic, like in that sense. Going back to like Nanook of the North, what's considered the first documentary, they made up stuff for that documentary. You know, Walt Disney's nature films have controversy because they had lemmings. You know, lemmings don't jump off of cliffs to commit suicide, but they force the lemmings to do it, which is obviously not a good thing because that's what audiences expected. They expected lemmings to just walk off a cliff, but they don't really do that in the real world. But they kind of created that scene for the documentary. That's the problem. Is that, I mean, that's the reality. Is documentary is always some through line of the and if we get down to it, so is the news. When you watch the news, it's some through line that the news reporter creates of the current event. And unfortunately, you are never going to be able to really fully get the full impact of the river of current history. That's the other thing I'll just say it right here. The other thing that bugs me about the news is there will never, ever be a follow-up on a story. Oh, wait, there are lemmings in real life, Chris? Yeah, look up lemmings. They're actually little brown rodent creatures. Yeah, so a friend of mine posted that he worked at Subway, and I guess Subway was being sued, or had a class action lawsuit that was filed against Subway because their tuna was not tuna. So this article claimed. And if you go look up Subway tuna fish class action lawsuit, you'll find that a lot of articles are written, is Subway tuna? This class action lawsuit claims it isn't. And then I was like, okay, well, what's the story? So I click on the article and I read down through it, and it's just a lawsuit. They say it's not tuna, it's anything but tuna, but they don't tell you what it is. So that kind of got me like, okay, so if you don't tell me what it is, and you're saying it's not tuna, well, but you don't say what it is. So what's the story here? And Inside Edition did a story where they sent some tuna off to a laboratory, and the laboratory is like, it's tuna. So the thing is, I don't know, that lawsuit might get tossed out. Who knows? Or it might go through and it might fail. To me, sounds like it's tuna, dude. It sounds like Subway's tuna is tuna. Maybe they add other stuff into it. Look, they probably add mayonnaise and all kinds of preservatives and all. Who knows? But there's probably some tuna in there. But anyhow, the lawsuit will probably resolve one way or the other, and it won't be written about because no one will want to click on a website that says lawsuit fails. Subway tuna is actually tuna. So we're never going to hear the end of that. We're never going to get that story. Instead, for the rest of the time on Google, when you Google Subway and tuna, you're going to get this, is Subway tuna not tuna? But you're never going to get the follow-up. But anyhow, I just wanted to, that was just my rant about that. Like, that's what bothers me, like, about popular culture. Again, going back to the story of talking about Camarena and color television, like, no one's going to double check to say that the big clickbaity title that you see a lot, did a Mexican invent color television? And they'll say, yes, he did. But no one will actually go through and, like, double check, because no, he didn't actually invent color television. Anyhow, if you're just joining me, it sounds like I'm rambling like a crazy man. So I don't know. Chris Rosen, I'll throw your chat up there. I don't know if this is for or against your point, but it certainly illustrates some of the fashion. The way that Werner Herzog's documentaries sometimes invent fake details to add underlying point. It may be, I don't know. I don't honestly know much about Werner Herzog. I just like his voice. But, inventing fake stuff, again, it's wrong if you're doing it in an academic situation. If you're an academic historian and you're writing a treatise on a certain thing, inventing stuff may not be very good. But inventing things to kind of bring a story along, again, I can't fault that. I think, and to fault the creators of a story, like, I'm just thinking Chernobyl just jumped in my head. Chernobyl took a bunch of different characters and melded them together, real life people, and it tried to get this dramatic story across in a way that was, palpable to an audience, rather than sifting through pages and pages and pages and pages of documentation. I think the fault really lies on the viewer. That we have to step back and say, okay, Chernobyl was entertaining. I can't take Chernobyl as pure history, and I can't take it as this is the fact, and I'm going to base my entire, understanding of the situation on this particular show. You just can't do it that way. You can say, you can at least, maybe the more appropriate be like, hey, I understand it was show. They probably did some stuff. I'm not going to argue with people online that, hey, the show said this, but this is what you're saying. I'm not going to make that argument. If that makes sense. If that's what I'm trying to say with that. I think really it's critical thinking. I mean, isn't it really basically all of our problems basically come down to critical thinking? If we can be more critical about how we think, then it solves a lot of things. See, Charles Hoffman says, well, somebody will report. I'll read your comment. Someone will like report the suit was dismissed, where I get frustrated. I don't think they will. Like, I don't think, because who will click on it? Like, oh, this suit was dismissed. Like, it might get one person covering it, like Inside Edition will do a thing, but yeah. And then the other thing, the confidentiality agreement, when they just settle. Like, so the other topic that I'm passionate about, I know the stream gets really annoyed when I talk about it, is copyright. So everyone knows that, like, Katy Perry got sued for the copyright of that one song, the Christian rapper that had a song and it sounded the same. So that lawsuit went forward, but then it got appealed and dismissed. But, like, a lot of people I talk to, they don't know that story. They heard about the lawsuit that makes copyright look really bad, but they don't see the dismissal, which brings, like, sanity back into copyright. So. Oh, there you go. Yeah, World War II or any war documentary. No. World War II or any war documentary that. Oh my gosh, my phone. That talk about real history and use stock footage that don't come from the events being described, or like every single Vietnam War movie, and it's always Creedence Clearwater they play. Yeah, it's like it's I think it's a trope started by I'm not sure who started it, but I always associate it with Zemeckis and like he's just a constant. He overuses that born fortunate son. Like it's just tied with Vietnam footage. There you go. Joseph Correa says, great point here. Cameras give the illusion of objectivity when you add editing, music, sound effects, 3-act structure, then you have somebody else's vision of events. And I think also, on top of that, cameras is the illusion of objectivity, but the camera itself is a subjective element, you know? Because, you can't, to me, I mean, I don't know how much I'm selling this effect. It's not that obvious, but I'm standing in front of the Trevi Fountain here. I'm not really in front of the Trevi Fountain, but cameras can give the illusion of objectivity, but they're not. Rigel says, but John, some folks are born to raise the flag, that red, white, and blue. Fortunate son, yeah. All right, MSD, we'll see you later. Go get some dinner. I have to join. I have to do that myself one of these days. Yeah, it's true. Even with official historical facts, the responsibility lies on the viewer to get a bigger picture before awarding trust. I think maybe never award trust. Never. Always be willing to just say, I don't know. I see your version, your history video or your whatever. I see it, and I see this other guy's arguing against it or a different point of view. And I'm not going to I think what gets me most is when people get very, very not emotional, but super, super, what do you call it? I'm trying to the word. I'm blanking here. I'm a little tired. Super convinced, I guess, of their argument. So I'm just thinking out loud. My 24 FPS video, which today was really funny because somebody a year ago, it was my video about the Gemini Man. And somebody was saying, "Oh, your video about Gemini Man being 120 frames a second, that's not going to age very well." And a year later, somebody else commented, "It aged fine." Because nobody, when there's a lot of passion involved with people, that when you mix ignorance with passion, you get dangerous things. If you have ignorance and an openness to hearing different sides and different points of view, that's life. That's normal. But ignorance and passion, ooh, dangerous. Oh yeah, JFK the movie. Okay, yeah, JFK the movie. Costner's opens up the door to conspiracy theories. I always say it's entertainment. Besides, it's Hollywood. I never seen JFK. I in my deepest heart hate conspiracy theories. I just hate conspiracies. Yeah, Victor asked, is this stream in 24? I think I'm going to go back to 30 again because I think the 24 is acting a little funny on my system. And again, YouTube doesn't take anything but 30 or 60, so it doesn't like 24. So I'm streaming at 24, but I'm not getting 24. I think YouTube's converting it to 30. So I'm just going to go back and do it again. I just set this up real quick tonight to do this little stream. Yeah, there you go. Kids should learn the hero's journey early on so they can identify when it's being applied to a subject. I think it's always being applied to, and it is always there. It's kind of always in the mindset of everything we do. If you go back and look at Campbell's, there's a pretty good little documentary. I have it on DVD. I haven't actually watched the whole thing because Campbell tends to be a little bit again, like my drawing, a little bit scattershot in the way he talks. He doesn't really give you a throughput. In the same way, Jordan Peterson's kind of like that too. He doesn't if you try to watch a Jordan Peterson lecture on Pinocchio's analysis, he veers off of the analysis a lot. He doesn't stick to the narrative. But Campbell tends to do that too. But I was trying to watch it and trying to get an understanding of the hero's journey as put forth in a kind of linear fashion. It doesn't really happen. You don't think powerful people conspire? I do believe powerful people conspire. I don't think it's not just powerful people too. I think I have a conspiracy theory about copyright in the United States, how the librarians, and my conspiracy involves librarians and the early internet kind of conspired to make copyright kind of evil when it's not. And I have conspiracy things about how people think that Disney's really responsible for copyright, but it's not. So I believe conspiracy. What I find problematic is when conspiracies are mixed with basically rejection of facts. Like flat Earth theory is a conspiracy that I cannot stomach. Fake moon landing is this conspiracy. Again, it's like people that are when you see these the fake moon guys talking about like how, see this rock, the shadows on this rock prove that it could not have been from the sun. I'm like, I'm a photographer. I deal with light. I mean, that's what I do. That's very natural looking light. This is absolutely nothing. So there you go. Conspiracy theories are very optimistic take on things. The reality is much more frightening. No one is steering the ship. I agree with that. No one is steering the ship. I don't know if that's more optimistic, though. I kind of feel like that's no one is steering the ship is a little more optimistic, because then that means you can steer your own ship. So, yeah, when religion is mixed with conspiracy theory crowds, it goes off the rails. I think politics is mixed with conspiracy theory crowd, it goes off the rails. When an ideology is mixed with conspiracy theory, like any whatever it is, racism is mixed with conspiracy theories. It goes off it's just, that's what I don't like about conspiracy theories. One of the things. Mythbusters own see, the problem with the moon hoax things is like everybody can own it. There's a video a long time ago of this one guy who talks about like the technology to actually broadcast a stream, of fake moon landing in 1969 would have been impossible to do, because you can't shoot film and play it back in slow motion. I mean, oh my God. Let's see. First Man. There you go. First Man to fake the moon landing. The movie looked pretty cool on the big screen. Yeah, we can do it nowadays, but in '69, man, that would have been really, really hard, if not impossible. Hey, it's been a long time. Just now, Derek says, had a fight with my Amazon Prime app not working right now. Smart TV. I hate modern technology. Yeah, I know. Amazon Prime can be a little bit like that. And Amazon, I could have swore I sent back these. I ordered three TV stands, and I could have sworn I sent them back. But Amazon's like, you didn't send it back. So, I don't know. I probably did, or I probably didn't. Maybe I'll find them, so I'm not going to fight it. There you go. Charles Smith says the hero's journey is important, but plot embryo simplifies it down to 8 plot points. You, comfort zone, need, want something, go, unfamiliar situation, unfamiliar situation, search, adaptation, and I'm not sure what the other points are, but yeah, it's kind of like the like Dan Harmon talks a lot about the story circle. Yeah, like Chris says, everyone knows that Kubrick faked the moon landing, but he was a perfectionist, so they had to shoot it on location. There you go. There's a great little, sketch on the Mitchell and Webb look, and they're doing the conspiracy theory of the moon landing, and like, okay, so right, how much is it going to cost to fake this moon landing? Well, it's going to cost, ends up costing more than actually going to the moon. And Mitchell's character is like, but it's going to cost. We need to bribe all these people. We're going to do it. It's going to cost more than these rockets, but we need to, because we need to show the Russians what we can. Or we could just go to the moon for less money. No, we need to actually spend all this money and create all this crazy conspiracy. My favorite moon conspiracy is that NASA hired Kubrick, who in his drive for cinema, insisted filmed it on location. Vivian Kubrick, Kubrick's daughter, talks about it too. Like if you knew Stanley Kubrick, like he was not pro-government. Like if somebody asked Kubrick to shoot on, fake the moon landing, he would have said, "Screw you." And the thing, I guess. I know I got in trouble on this a while ago, and I said, go and watch 2001 Space Odyssey. If you watch it with an extremely critical eye, I'm talking like anally critical eye, like abnormally critical, like the point where like you're being a dick about it, you will see that a lot of parts of 2001 do not look right if you are being hypercritical. I'm not taking away the quality of the film. I'm not taking away the quality of the special effects. I'm just saying there are things about 2001 that do not look right because limitations of technology. Like one of the things I've noticed, like on 2001, like the when people are walking on the moon, the shadow on the base of the moon is one way, and the shadow light on the astronauts is coming from a different direction. Stuff like that are not correct on the in the film. Not to take away the quality of the work on the film. For all the stupid people that are, last time I said that on the stream, someone was being a smartass and saying, "Oh, you think you're so much better than 2001, huh?" No. If you think that, you should probably just get off of YouTube and, I don't know, read a book. Yeah, and Derek Robb says, all films have flubs. I totally agree. Every film has flubs. That's the other thing that annoys me. I'm leaving comments on the screen for too long. That's the one thing I really hate about Movie Sins. Like, I hate that channel. I'm sorry. If you liked it, good for you. I can't stand that channel. It's like it promotes this kind of comic book guy style. Well, I noticed in episode 231, Itchy hits the same rib twice but produces two separate tones. It's clearly not a thing. I hope someone got fired for that mistake, kind of a thing. Like, no, that's not how art works. That's not how cinema works. It's amazing. Like, if you think about, there's certain things you watch, you're like, I can't believe I got so into that when the premise is just silly. It's just stupid. Yeah, Helium Road mentions the normal Earth gravity doesn't look like. Yeah, lots of scenes on the moon just don't look like they're taking place on the moon. Yeah, are we sitting here knocking down 2001 as a cinematic achievement? Of course not. But it doesn't. As good as I think Kubrick is, and he's a perfectionist. We all know that. He still let some things, he couldn't do some things. So. Ooh, Killer's Kiss. Killer's Kiss is a great early Kubrick. I have not seen that one. I've yet to see that in Barry Lyndon. Barry Lyndon is one I've been meaning to come down and see. Nate Diller says, Douglas Trumbull is one of my main heroes. I don't think he'd like me for knocking the shit out of his... I think for the last 30 years he's been highly on the wrong path. See, Derek Roberts says, Cinema Sins, I used to watch it purely for the humor. The problem, I think, with our society is it always starts as humor. Like, it always starts as humor, and then it becomes reality. And I worry about that. Like, okay, I'll go on my little political rant. When the Daily Show started, everyone loved the Daily Show. They thought it was a great show. It changed the landscape of the way the news is consumed, the Daily Show. And as much as Jon Stewart used to say that, oh, he needs to hide behind the clown thing. Like, I'm just a clown. I'm just commenting on the news. I'm just adding humor to it. He did change the way the news is consumed, and the result was we have basically now everything late night is just a copycat of what the original Daily Show was. So, and it changed the way we approach the news. It changed the way we approach current events. It has become the reality. So, like Cinema Sins may start off as humorous take and you're being over the top, but then people take it too seriously. And then now we're dealing with the ramifications of dealing with that. Joseph says 2001 sucks. Let me tell you my story. I haven't probably told this in a while. My story with relationship to 2001. When I first saw it, I hated it. I was like 17. I love Star Trek. I wasn't as big a fan of Star Wars, but I like Star Wars. 2001 is supposed to be a great movie, right? I watched it this is boring. This is terrible. 21 years old. I'm like a little more into film at this point. I'm like, I'll give it another go. Not really that good. I like the other Kubrick movies. Like, I love Doctor Strangelove. I talked about that endlessly. But then about 25, 26, I started watching it. I watched it again thinking, You know, knowing more about Kubrick, knowing more about it, and I watched it like in HD for the first time, I think, because I watched it in like VHS format before that. And I watched it in HD, and then just like just not having any expectation for it, just letting it sit there and it's just like meditative. The film, like, another example I want to talk. I always reach for. I saw a Blade Runner in theaters a couple years ago because they're doing like an old movie night, right? And there's a scene where, and the Red Letter Media makes fun of it. The scene where Harrison Ford's looking at his computer, and it's just the shot of him looking at a computer. Sector 4884, enhance. Zoom in 2/3 to the right. Enhance. Increase zoom 40%. Enhance. And that's all the scene is. And it's just, you hear the sound of the rain outside. You can feel the dust, the smokiness outside. And you just, in my brain, I'm thinking 24 frames of celluloid per second are running through this film and through this camera. 24 frames a second. What is that? You know, like this many feet of film per second. And for what? To just sit here and listen to the rain. And it was kind of a magical moment, this kind of Zen moment of realizing the power of just sitting there with this film and this quiet time with this character. And just hearing it, and you're kind of like wondering, what's he looking at? What's he looking at? But it's just really, it's an amazing moment. And Red Letter Media makes fun of it because it's like if you're sitting at home watching it on TV, it's boring. It's boring. But if you're in a movie theater and it's like cold because the air conditioner's on full blast, it's just like it's just, I don't know. There's something about it. There's a quietness to it. It's like listening to good drone music, says Helium. Yeah, kind of slow, pensive moment. It's something about it. Anyhow. Charles Smith said he just finished reading Arthur C. Clarke's 2001. Oh, my keyboard's just not working with me. Never mind. 2001, 2010, 2061, and 3001. Oh, cool. Odyssey series. Hopefully get level of Skydance Foundation got from Apple TV. Oh, okay. They're making some clips of it. Some clips from the show. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, Joseph was being sarcastic. That's okay. I was gonna hate. I'm not gonna try to hate on anybody that has a different opinion. Blade Runner. I fell asleep during the theater. Yeah. You know what I find? Check to see if you have sleep apnea. They do a sleep test. I'm gonna be honest. I'm a big, huge movie fan. For a long time, I went to the movies, and then sometimes I would fall asleep in the movies. It's hard. Then I found out I had sleep apnea. Got the sleep mask, and now I don't fall asleep in movies because it's hard. It's hypnotic. Movies are kind of hypnotic, you know. Let's see here. Hooked model of trigger, action, variable reward, and investment will lead to producers only wanting addictive narrative products. I think we all want addictive narrative products. Yeah, some movies need to be seen in theaters. I wish more theaters would show old films. I know. I feel like the pandemic at least started us kind of go down the idea of maybe doing some movies in theaters, because when the movie theaters first opened up, there was there was a lack of new content to show on screen, so a lot of theaters played old movies. I don't know if that was successful or not. I know also a lot of school districts. Like I'm working with some school districts right now. And they're doing a lot of movie nights, so they're doing a lot of drive-in theaters. Like, so I don't know. As a kid, like high school movie nights were wonderful. Like that needs to come back. You know, like when I was a kid, I went to a high school that was brand new, so we were the upperclassmen for 3 years, right? But one of the things we did, we wanted to try to do different experimental things. We did a movie night, and we did a double feature, the weirdest double feature. Only high schoolers would come up with this. We watched Psycho, Hitchcock's The Psycho. So that was the first time I saw Psycho. Was in the movie theater. It wasn't not a movie theater. In our high school performing arts theater with all my friends. Right, we saw Psycho, and then we watched Christmas Vacation. there's a double feature for you. So. Derek says, I don't lay down in movie theaters or TV shows because I will fall asleep. Again, sleep apnea. Check it out. I'm serious. It might be sleep apnea. I had a problem. Nowadays, I can make it through unless I'm really tired, and I'll fall asleep. But I can actually stay awake for a show. Fathom Events. Yeah, Fathom Events used to do Tuesdays and Thursday nights downtime. Oh, yeah, cool. I remember I went to see one Fathom Events at the Edwards Theater, and they're showing Doctor Strangelove. Of course, I love it. That theater though, like, it was they screened the movie and the movie was blue. Like, oh, it must have been like something wrong with the projector. Like everything was a tinge of blue. It was like a cyan colored, right? So maybe the red thing wasn't firing fully, and like. Do I get up and complain, or do I just sit it out? And I sat it out, and I called the theater, and I'm like, yeah, that theater, something's wrong with that projector. I don't know if they changed it or not. I'm not really a big fan of Edwards anymore. I used to go to AMC a lot more. We'll see if they come back. Hopefully all the stock market stuff kept their stock market gaming has brought their value back. And anyhow. Any historical narrative dramas would you recommend as prime examples of the genre? I put Kubrick's Barry Lyndon there for sure. Even Kurosawa's Kagemusha has a deeper cut of selection as well. I've never seen Barry Lyndon, like I said. Kurosawa is probably worth watching. I'm trying to think. Maybe like a Gettysburg. Gettysburg, I think, was trying to be very, very accurate to the time period. If you're, I've never seen Gettysburg, but I know it's like a 4-hour movie. So something like that. I'm trying to think what else is a historical movie that maybe plays as close to the history as possible. I'm not sure. I have to think. Maybe the chat will throw out some recommendations. There you go. Victor says, in 1996 we had a high school movie night with a real projector. Ah, sweet. The mono speaker is super cool. I don't know the movies anymore, but they were all cool. Only French Kiss was boring. 1996. That's around the time I would have been. We had a digital projector, but yeah, I think we did ours on like 98 was when we did our movie. Let's talk about WandaVision. Okay, you want to talk about WandaVision? I really enjoyed. I thought WandaVision was spectacular. It was a really well done show. It took me a while to warm up to it. Like I wasn't crazy about the first 2 episodes, but the 3rd episode got me into it. The 4th, everything was really good. The final episode, I really like movies. I like superhero movies where they don't end up punching each other. I like superhero movies where the solution to the fight isn't to punch each other to death. Like that's to me like the weakest of the comic book movies. But when the comic book movie is about some ideas or thoughts and feelings and discussing or talking. Yeah, I kind of dig that. So I really enjoyed WandaVision. I think the final episode was, again, this is a minor quibble. This is a minor issue with it. It's like, yeah, well, it kind of went for more punchy rather than thought. Although I like the way the Vision thing was handled at the very end, how they dealt with that. But I really, I think WandaVision is, I made a video called our comic book superhero movies, the death of cinema, because it's like the whole Martin Scorsese, I think this is horrible stuff. I don't like. I think the WandaVision is a great answer to people that say, well, all comic book movies are just trash. But WandaVision explores so much more, and I think it opens up shows you a little more what the genre can do. Like you can do a lot with it. Yeah, sure, it can be lazy, it can be dumb and stupid, and the same plots and boring. Or you can go crazy with like WandaVision and just try all kinds of stuff and do a take on old TV shows and all kinds of stuff. I mean, I really, really, really enjoyed it. So I'm not, and again, I'm not terribly. So I see the next series is Falcon and Winter Soldier. Again, I have no Falcon and Winter Soldier. Okay, but again, I might watch it and I might really, really enjoy it, or I might just see it and like, this is kind of just more just middle of the road fare. So I don't know. Ooh, okay, here we go. Oh, the Dark Horse comics. They're talking about the adaptation of Alien. Alien, the Third Power. Alien 3. Cool. Oh, Black Hawk Down is another example of a movie. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I'm not. I think it's as far as accuracy goes. They tried to be really, really accurate to how that played out. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just going through some of your comments here, trying to pick out some stuff to talk about. Oh, Helium Road says Gods and Generals is the prequel to Gettysburg and is about 4 hours with an intermission. Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking about. That's the one that's really, really long. Period films like Elizabeth. There you go. One of the things I'm thinking about is Blackadder, as far as period shows. Again, period show, Blackadder is not historically accurate, but it is entertaining. I think that's, not to get too controversial, but I think that's something about the British that I admire, is that they can do a history show that's humorous and have fun with history, whereas I feel Americans, we cannot do a humorous show about history. Not in this time period, because everything would be like, why are you not addressing racism? Or, like you can't, you couldn't do a comedy about 1776 because you'd have to inject it with a bunch of, super serious takes on racism and slavery of the time periods. Like, that's not what the point of the show was. I guess take a look at an example like MASH. MASH is probably a historical show that that could not get away. It had its humorous parts, but always had to remind you that war is hell and it's awful. So you always have to come back to it. And it felt, as much as I appreciate what it tried to do, it's like I just want a fun escapist show. I don't want it to be reminded all the time. But anyhow, just me dancing along the edge of being canceled. Never mind. Would I consider Cecil B. DeMille's historical stuff to be too far removed to be worth the tag? Cecil B. DeMille, did he do that much history? I'm trying to think, or he did more like biblical stuff. Because Ben-Hur isn't a history movie. It's still a fictional telling. Ben-Hur or Ten Commandments. The Ten Commandments is not really a history show. More of a Bible epic, which is not quite history. It's more legend / history kind of thing. Patriot was unintentionally hilarious. Someone says, Helium says. I like the Rick H says History of the World Part 1. I think that is completely accurate. I don't think he made up a single thing in that movie. That movie is 100% accurate. It is definitely good to be the king. What do I think about Baz Luhrmann? I think Baz Luhrmann is incredibly talented. I think he's manic how talented he is. But he is a talent beyond what I am capable of doing, or even copying. His style is so dramatically different. Like I watched Moulin Rouge. First time I tried to watch Moulin Rouge, I turned it off because I could not take it. It was too much. Then I watched it again as I was a little older. Yeah, within 5 years ago, I watched it again. I marveled at the sheer energy of this film. And they're just over the top. I'm like, wow. And Nicole Kidman is so beautiful in that movie. But Baz Luhrmann's Moulin Rouge is like candy with like hard candy with peanut butter on top of it, with whipped cream and with a drizzle of a chocolate sauce, and then wrapped in a tortilla made of sugar. And it's just like, it's so decadent. It's so much to this thing that it's like hard to take if you're not getting into it. Helium Road, so it mentions Hogan's Heroes. I feel like my streams are getting really like scattershot because I'm responding to different people. I hope you guys are enjoying this little conference. We were kind of enjoying the live conversation of it, the aspect of it. Oh, there you go. Late 90s, they had a... You remind me of a couple of things. Late 90s, they had a show in Canada called History Bites. They used parodies of current TV set in a different time period and explored time and people. And yeah, very cool. Kind of like, a little Blackadder-ish. I guess in Americans, we do have a funny way of dealing with history, and it's called drunk history. That's how we deal with history. We kind of take everything to an absurdist level. We can't do a sitcom, but as long as it's absurd, then we can do kind of a comedic take on history. So, one of my thoughts on Psycho 1998. No, thank you. I never saw it. I remember I was alive. I remember reading the Ebert review of it, and Ebert was vicious with it. So I'm like, whatever Ebert says, that's what I think. Oh, there you go. The Good, Bad, and the Ugly was the best historical film. Oh, history film, The Stoning of Soraya M. I have not seen that one. I heard, well, obviously I think it got a lot of buzz last year or the year before. So I think that one, check it out. Love the first 2 seasons of Jessica Jones, maybe exactly because she never solved anything by just punching. It was wanted to make Avengers. Then they wanted to make it Avengers 2, and it became meh really fast. Yeah, stay away from the punching. Punching doesn't, because let's face it, CGI versus CGI, not terribly exciting. Not very, like when I watch the spoilers alert now, okay, warning, if you haven't seen WandaVision by now, you probably aren't going to really care. But when Vision fights Vision, it's just 2 CGI things beating each other. Like, okay, there's no, it's fun. Like, I want to see this gorilla, the King Kong versus Godzilla movie, just like any other. It's just 2 CGI things going at it. But I want to see how clever they can do it and all the rumbling and, you want that little stupidness to it. But you can't really relate to it, right? But if I see, like, a person who, example would be like Good, Bad, and Ugly, or not Good, Bad, and Ugly. Let's pick the one I'm more familiar with, the how Once Upon a Time in the West, and you see Charles Bronson's eyes, and he's looking at, and he cut to the good-looking guy, for whatever his name is, the bad guy, and then you zoom in tighter on his eyes, and you hear Morricone's music, and then you see his memory of his brother being on top of him, again, spoiler alert, being hung, and then, the bad guy rides off, and he's left with his brother dying on his shoulders. Like, you can relate, man. Like, holy moly, you can feel that, right? You can feel that. But, CGI Vision fighting a CGI Vision, okay. I mean, all right. It doesn't matter. So... That's why I think. Yeah, Pauline Kael. Thanks for bringing up Pauline Kael. I don't like the fact that everyone thinks that Roger Ebert is the grandfather of all critics. He is not. Pauline Kael was the queen. She was one of the leaders of the film reviewer genre. Like we miss always reverence to Pauline Kael. She lost at the movies. She's like a sharp-tongued lady. Gotta respect her. All right. The story twist in WandaVision is great. How she seemed to come to peace with herself after all said was done. Yeah. I think this, I enjoyed... Yeah, I think the other thing about these comic book movies, sometimes you gotta be careful with, or these comic book shows, is they tend to get a little too nerdy too quickly. Like, I obviously like Marvel movies. I've never read a Marvel comic book. I've read maybe a couple DC comic books, maybe just recently. All right, sorry about that, guys. We'll be hanging out for just a little bit longer, and I gotta get going. But yeah, my battery died, and Marvel was not very happy with me talking about WandaVision like that. Don't you dare talk about WandaVision like that. Don't you dare tell him. Don't you dare say you liked it a lot, and that you thought it was a great demonstration of what comic book heroes can do. But you thought it was a little too deep, and don't dare say you actually really liked it. But there were some things you just didn't quite follow along. Anyhow, yeah. So sorry about that, guys. I forgot to plug the damn thing in. I was just running on battery the whole time. Quick, let's all trade seats before he gets back, and he'll be confused. I love that. Let's see. Yeah, you guys found it. No, that was me talking. Kubrick is directing a Filmmaker IQ video. Yeah, anyhow. Yeah, so, yeah. Well, thanks. Yeah, thanks for hanging out. It's about that's 4:20. Spoiling turning off streams. Yeah, hopefully I didn't. Well, I will go into it in a future video probably. And the whole idea is there are some things that I feel like are spoilers that do actually spoil the feel of something. But sometimes if you know where the story is going, you can enjoy the journey better. Sometimes I think I would never try to purposely, I wouldn't go out of my way to like hurt someone's enjoyment of something. But I don't know if spoilers are necessarily a bad thing all the time. Like if you know how some things are going to go, you can actually enjoy it better. Essay says it's 1:20 a.m. in your time. That's 4:20 in my time. It's always 4:20 somewhere. HK says it's 3:20 over there. Oh, 3:20 a.m. Oh man, you're literally across the globe from me. Literally across. So, Roger Ebert were huge spoilers because were huge spoilers before you went into the theaters in the 80s. Roger Ebert, I guess. Yeah. Well, I used to love Roger Ebert. I now kind of like I now having grown a little older and read more things. I now appreciate his role in film criticism as hugely important, hugely popular, hugely successful. But I don't also think he's the. I find myself disagreeing more and more as I get older with Roger Ebert. Like I think he called Team America World Police completely wrong. That movie is brilliant. I don't care. Like Ebert really disliked that movie, but I think that was pretty good. Yeah, Victor's out there in where are you, Victor? You're out Netherlands, right? So anyhow, I knew a kid who ran out of the theaters. There you go. After the Return of the Jedi, he yelled spoilers to all the people standing in line outside. There's an old Simpsons episode where like Homer's walking out of oh God, come on, Empire Strikes Back, and he's like, man, who would have saw that coming? Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's dad. And everyone's like, oh man, thanks for spoiling it. I love The Simpsons. Oh, Thomas Hine was so disappointed with Blair Witch, LOL. Yeah, I saw Blair Witch in theaters like opening night with my dad, and my dad is an older gentleman when he was around, when we was alive, obviously. You'd be older if you're alive. But he was, that's right, Victor's from Netherlands, near Amsterdam. Yeah, I gotta come out to Amsterdam hang out with you in Netherlands. But anyways, we saw Blair Witch, and my dad was an older gentleman who, old people don't do well with like lots of motion on screen, and well, I didn't either. We were sick to our stomach after watching that in the theater. Thomas says he got out and wasted money and walked out. Yeah, So I stuck around after, like my dad and I stuck around after, I mean, the lights came back up. We were kind of just woozy from feeling like what were we watching, this shaky cam nonsense. And a lot of people were just sitting around like trying to figure out what the hell they just watched. And, you know, Blair Witch is interesting because it's really one of the first movies ever marketed through the internet. Like internet marketing had not existed. Like the buzz was generated on the internet, which makes it really kind of interesting history about the movie. Yeah, it is really more about the hype, Chase Williams says. So, all right, guys. Well, I've been on for about an hour and 20 minutes, an hour and 24, with a little bit of intermission with some black, just black screen there. So I will be back. We'll be back next Wednesday. We'll try to do these every Wednesdays, and we'll come and hang out with you guys and talk about movies or the simulation or whatever it is we want to talk about. Or we talk about multiverse, talk about the quantum physics, and whatever it is we want to hang out with. I'm going to get to do some work before I have to go home and make some dinner and try to take it a little easier. All right, guys, we shall see you next time. Take care, everybody. Talk to you later. Bye.